think back, if you were around, to the early 90s, and I'll identify 3 or 4 motivations that really launched Leadership Maine. Politics were a mess in the early 90s. There was a lack of civility, a lack of trust, a lack of understanding about the economy and about how government works. It was not a very nice environment to be in if you were working with the legislature at all. And it wasn't just the legislature, it was the business community and local government. Frequently at board meetings of MDF, we bemoaned the fact that it was so hard to identify up-and-coming leaders.
It seemed that if we were going to be successful, we needed a new form of leadership. The old hierarchy of command and control, telling people what to do, wasn't going to work as we went into this more complex environment. And so I started to ask around. I talked with a lot of experts. Jim Orr, who was the CEO of Unum at the time, was very supportive. We put together an advisory committee that consisted of some great people in the greater Portland area. This was Portland-focused, not statewide focused at the time. So we had the president of the USM, Rich Patna, the manager of Portland, Bob Ganley at the time, Mickey Green, who was CEO of Blue Cross. I could name them all, but they were really committed, good, thoughtful people. And as a result of those discussions, we came up with the idea what we needed was a collaborative leadership model. And so the ICL was born.
What's the thing we remember the most? The high ropes course. Or unless you were in the class that caused Cheryl to ban liquor, and then you remember that. But let's pretend it's the high ropes course. You know, and what's amazing about that experience, right, is not just who's climbing, but who's on belay. And Patty Oldmixon is here from my Leadership Maine class, and I'm embarrassing her, but I will never forget, and I will never stop telling the story of how when one of our climbers came down, and she said to the belay team, "Thank you for holding me." And Patty and her teammates said, "No, thank you for trusting us enough to hold you." And that really changed my whole conception of what the climb is like and of what leadership is like.
I made a choice that I couldn't go up the wall. And the next day, I was the only one in the class who didn't climb. And the next day, Lou Snow, if you saw him, you would think of him as an older, curmudgeonly guy. When we were doing our reflections on the climb, he said to me, "Wow, it took a lot of courage for you to say no." And it meant a lot to me. So my tweet is, I've learned to surround myself with people who will support me when I'm the odd person out.
I use this all the time in my part-time work, and his process agreements, because we discussed process agreements really early on in our program, where you make a decision early on how things are going to be decided, so that everyone in the room knows that it's not necessarily, you know, a democracy. Someone else is going to make a decision, but they are committing to a certain process to get there, and including people in the conversation.
Every individual brought a certain skill set and a certain strength, and together as a team we created something very special.
But you did it together.
We did it together. It was the collaboration, it was the belief that you could rely on other people who could do things that you could not do.
This much I know is true. Those who come to the ICL Leadership Intensive with commitment and intention to learn, to meet and know a mix of amazing people, to explore their own leadership vision and style, and to fully participate are those who see more clearly their own potential and their ability to trust and honor themselves and others.
What does Leadership Maine mean to me? It gave me the opportunity to give back, to pay it forward, and to have the time of my life meeting very special, committed people. It was transformational for all of us every year. We each defined where we wanted to make a difference in both large and small ways.
And if you recall, back when you were on the ropes course, you would indicate that you were ready. If the belay person would indicate they were ready to provide support, they would say on belay, and the response would be belay on. And the board of LIFT has done a lot of work, and staff over the last several months, to help support this transition to MDF and to Maine Association of Nonprofits, as Marcia mentioned. And so I'm going to take the carabiner and pass it off to Yellow, who will then attach it to MDF. Belay on.